looking so fresh. When I walk by, breaking their necks. Waiting in line at the team store. Now I'm feeling fly like a condor. Eyes on me when I walk through the door. Man, I wish I bought a couple more. Cause I really love my city. It was worth every penny. If it were at my show, then I know they gon' tip me. Think I might add a couple patches. If you think it's ugly, you capping. Now my whole outfit matching. Never going out of fashion.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Talking Friars. I'm Ben Fadden. Thank you for the time. Padres, they take 2 out of 3 against the Rockies in Coors Field. Wow, that was a Coors Field series for sure. Today, with what had happened earlier in the series, I was holding on hope to see if the Padres would be able to mount a comeback because it is the Rockies, but they were not able to do so. Nick Pivetta, who has struggled, he had a 10 ERA entering today at Coors Field. He ends up continuing to struggle at Coors Field, and it just wasn't the same Nick Pivetta as other ballparks. And so I'm not going to sit here and be super concerned about Nick Pivetta, when he has a start against, well, it's not that it's against the Rockies, it's that it's at Coors Field. And just in general, not every starter is going to have in fact, every starter is not going to have great starts every time out. It just doesn't happen. You may see starters now at this point in the season have great starts, however many starts in that they have, maybe their first 10, 15 starts, they've got a really good ERA. But at some point, it's not going to look great on some of their game logs. And that's baseball. The other team's trying to, and sometimes you just don't execute the way you want to. And obviously, there had to have been an effect. Pivetta post-game, I guarantee you, he's not going to use Coors Field as an excuse, but it's there. Just like he didn't want to use Wrigley Field in the mid-40s as an excuse, because I believe he pitched there, right? He's not an excuse maker, which I like, but as a reasonable Padres fan, I have to mention that. So, they took 2 out of 3. If, especially the way the first 2 games went, really wanted the sweep. And I'm sure there's Padres fans I am a little bit disappointed too that they weren't able to sweep. But at the same time, on the road at Coors Field, historically, the Padres have struggled at Coors Field. And I know this Rockies team may end up being the worst team ever. It's really bad. They really stink. It's still Coors Field, and crazy things can happen. And we saw it in favor of the Padres in the first couple of games. And I shouldn't say almost in favor of the Rockies the first game because they weren't going to come back. Like, I did have faith the Padres were going to win that game. But the Padres did have a huge lead at one point in that series opener. I think it was 13-1, 13-2 that they had, and it ended up being a 4-run game, and Robert Suarez ends up having to come in to get a save because I think the tying run was on deck or something. So, yeah, it was like I said moments ago, it was a Coors Field series for sure, but they took 2 out of 3. And on the road trip, man, this road trip, I almost forgot who they played the first series because of how long it feels like this road trip has been. But a 3-city road trip, sweep the Pirates, take the series against the Yankees, and then take the series against the Rockies, and you have a 6-3 road trip, I think, if I'm doing math correctly. No, did we lose? We won the Yankee series, right? Why am I totally blanking if we won the Yankees? 1 second. Let me look at that, because now my mind's getting messed up here. No, we lost it. Okay. That's what it was. Swept the Pirates, lost the series to the Yankees, and then, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So 4 wins there, plus 2. So, yeah, 6-3 on a 9-game road trip. You're going to take that. I don't care who you're facing. I know the Pirates and the Rockies were They are two of the worst teams in baseball. The Pirates already fired their manager. The Rockies could very well fire Bud Black at some point this season, although their GM has backed Bud Black publicly. I think it was before the Padres scored 21 runs on the Rockies last night and won 21-0. But it's not Bud Black's fault. Just like I feel like the Pirate situation, it's not Derek Shelton's fault. The owners have to look in the mirror. That goes for the Marlins owner, these other owners that just don't spend enough money. They don't commit enough, and then they want to turn around and say that they have to have their team has to have more urgency, and so they're making a change. And it's like, maybe you're the one that should have the urgency. I'm pretty sure the manager wants to win baseball games, and he's trying to have urgency, and I'm sure the players want to win. Maybe you got to be willing to spend some money here. But luckily, that's not our problem, and the Padres, payroll-wise, were in a good spot still. But yeah, today it was weird again. Like, Pivetta at Coors doesn't have a good history with that. German Marquez, he pitched really well against the Phillies earlier in the season, and then he does it here against the Padres. Jason Hayward with a weird route to that ball down the line, and then he tries to dive to try to save himself on that play, and it gets past him. Out of the gate, bottom of the first, you had the Hunter Goodman homer. He almost hit for the cycle. If he would have singled, I think in his last at bat, he would have hit for the cycle. Yeah, just one of those days. And the Rockies, yeah, and Kevin Acee put this in his Padres Daily this morning about how the Padres are playing a team that should have a lot of guys in the minor leagues, and he's not wrong. And he was making the point because Stephen Kole, who I'll get to, obviously, he was used to pitching in that type of environment, and he pitched well, and he was used to pitching against minor league players. And then Kevin went on to say, yeah, these are essentially like, yeah, these are a lot of guys that should be in the minor leagues. So Kole was pretty comfortable last night, which that was funny. What was my point? Oh, the Rockies. While they do have guys that would be in the minor leagues and other organizations, there are guys that are talented, have potential. Ryan McMahon is one of those. And he had some moments for sure in this series against the Padres. And today, for example, McMahon scored 3 times, and he drove in a run, walked a couple of times, 2 for 3 on the day. And I think if you ask a lot of baseball fans, the one guy that they would identify in this lineup is probably Ryan McMahon. And then there's some guys that I think if you're someone that pays more attention to baseball, you would know, like Kyle Farmer, or maybe people know Mickey Moniak because of, like, the potential that he had and hasn't been able to live up to that. Alan Trejo obviously went to San Diego State. But yeah, obviously the Rockies, they're not a great team. But there is some talent there, and you get the right day, you get the right pitcher on the mound, and that's what happened today for the Rockies. So I'm not taking too much from it. Jackson Merrill, he was scratched today. He was in the lineup, but he was scratched with an illness. So who knows if he's out for the start of this Angels series coming up, with the Padres finally back at Petco. Got the Angels and the Mariners, I believe, coming up this week. So, Tyler Wade had to go in there, bat ninth, and he's not Jackson Merrill, obviously. Arise 0 for 4 today. Bogey 0 for 3, Crony 0 for 3, Hayward 0 for 4. A couple of punchies. Yeah. Let's move on. I probably have talked too much about this game, to be quite honest. To me, it's kind of a throwaway game. And some Padres fans may be like, no, this isn't a throwaway game because it's the Rockies. Like you've been saying, Ben, take advantage of playing against the bad teams. And yeah, that's true. But the Padres swept the Rockies at home. At Colorado, it's going to be hard to sweep the Rockies. Maybe that's a Padres fan talking and not just a baseball fan. Maybe other teams wouldn't say that it's hard to sweep the Rockies on the road. But coming from a Padres fan, yeah, it is. So they are taking 2 out of 3 against a bad team and scoring 21 plus 13, 34 runs in 2 games there. That's still taking care of business against bad teams. And this bad team being the Rockies. And yesterday, 21-0. So I was working, so I wasn't able to watch the entirety of this game, but getting updates, and it was 6-7-0 early on, right? Through 2 innings, 6-0, 7-0 through 3. And then I checked back and I saw it was 21-0. And I was like, holy cow. I know it's Coors Field, but 21-0. And then I didn't realize until I got home, or actually, not when I got home, but it was later in the night, way later than when I saw the 21-0. I was like, wait, Kole pitched the entire game? And when you think about it, how I mentioned Kevin Acey in his Padres Daily about the environments and Kole, used to pitching in that with El Paso and some of the teams that he's had to face and facing some minor league batters. He was pretty comfortable. And when you attack the strike zone, those first pitch strikes, and Kole, part of the thing that was encouraging, seeing him come up was before he came up, the walk rate was low. Like he is not walking guys, he is throwing strikes, pounding the strike zone. And when you do that against a bad team, you could get some really quick outs. You can be efficient, and that's what happened. Kole was 70 something pitches through 7, I think. And so yeah, that's definitely going to help. Only 2 walks, 7 punch outs. It's ridiculous seeing the Padres runners in scoring position number 10 for 19 with runners in scoring position, and 0 for 3 the Rockies had. So like not even getting a lot of guys again in that opportunity to come through there with a guy on second. So yeah, with Kole, he has not allowed a run yet at the big league level. Is he facing the strongest opponents? No, it's the Pirates and the Rockies. But if you want to be negative and talk about it that way and focus on it that way, I guess go have fun with that. For me, I'm focused on, okay, he is a guy that was called up from the minor leagues. He's worked his way up as a starter. And I say worked his way up, meaning like this year, working his way up, getting those pitches in, the innings, the rhythm of being a starter. And to come up like this and pound the strike zone, be consistent, that's what I want to see. And obviously it's 2 starts, so I can't really like totally use the consistent word too much here, but got to be encouraged by what Padres fans saw. Again, I didn't see a ton of it, but what I saw a little bit from Stephen Kole, and then what you guys saw if you watched the entire game yesterday. But yeah, 9 innings. And it's huge for the bullpen because I was hoping it was going to be a series where, Robert Suarez would have the series off. Jason Adams would have the series off. And I was a little pissed when Robert Suarez had to pitch in game 1 of the series because it's like you were up 13-2 at one point, right? 12-2. I definitely know it was 12-2. You were up big. Robert Suarez should not be pitching in that game. I know it's Coors Field, but should not be pitching in that game. I'm not saying Schilt made the wrong decision by putting Suarez in there because you got it. When you're up by that, you have to win that game. So go take it. Suarez was coming off at least one day off before. Yeah, it was one day off. Entering the May 9th, which was the first game of the series. And he only threw 3 pitches. But him just having to get up, I was disappointed with. I didn't want Estrada pitching. I didn't want Adam pitching. I didn't want Suarez pitching. These guys, Adam, I was listening, I forget what show, but he was on pace. I heard someone say he was on pace for like a career high 90 innings pitched or something. And that would be double digits higher than his past career high. And so, yeah, like they're working him. And when the Padres are winning a lot of games and they're close, he's going to be pitching because you trust Jason Adam, you trust Robert Suarez and Jeremiah Estrada. But to look at this today, because I have the bullpen chart, and Suarez didn't pitch, so 2 days off there. Adam has not pitched since May 7th, so he's going to have 4 days off entering this Angels series. Jeremiah Estrada, same thing, 4 days off. Adrian Morejon, unless I'm missing it, I don't think I am. The last time that I have him pitching was May 6th, so 5 days off. Let me double check that because that feels weird that he hasn't pitched in that long of a time. Yeah, May 6th. Like, your best relievers got a good amount of time off this series. So that is a success. That's something that needs to be talked about because it is a long season. So when you're facing these bad teams, it's not just important to win the games, but win them in a manner where your best guys don't have to be closing down those games. So I'm sure the bullpen, especially those big guys, are thanking Stephen Kolek for sure for not just the entire bullpen, not even having to pitch in game 2 of that series. But yeah, a lot of guys coming through. What, 5 home runs yesterday? Gavin Sheets, Crony had a homer. Tatis had a homer. Jason Hayward had a homer. Did I say Xander already? Some of these, yes, they were Coors Field homers. I understand. Like Xander, definitely. Go back and look at that swing. That made it 16-0 in the 5th, by the way. That's not a home run. But at Coors Field, it is. Tatis as well. That seemed more like a pop-up, but it got out. It carried. But yeah, obviously when it's 21-0, you got a lot of guys coming through, and it's not a lot of times where you see a position player pitch the last 2 innings. Last inning, okay. Last 2 innings of a game. And that's what happened there. But yeah, just feel for Bud Black. And I've said this before. I know it's the big leagues, managing in the big leagues. There's a lot of perks and stuff, but man, that's got to be rough. To have to manage this group where it's like, well, ownership's not giving me enough to get a ton out of this group to go win a bunch of games. So, I've seen at least social media Rockies fans want Bud Black to be fired, and it's like, you think that's going to change things? Look at the roster. What a brutal pitching line this was for Blaylock. 3 2/3, 13 hits, 12 earned runs, only 2 walks, but 3 home runs. And his ERA is now 12.94. Yeah, Jacob Stallings was pitching the last 2 games, the catcher. Jacob Stallings, the last 2 innings of this game. But, this is, I'm not saying you're going to, win 21-0, but this is what this Padres lineup can be. I think I don't know how much we learned because, we learned about like a little bit more of Stephen Kolek, but just that, having this lineup back healthy with Tatis, Arise, Manny, Merrill, Bogart, Crony, Sheets, and then whoever else, Hayward, Diaz, Maldonado, whoever, having these guys in this order together, that's one of the better lineups. Or I should say this. It's one of the lineups that's probably on opposing pitchers' list that they don't want to be facing. Just how many different guys can beat you. And you can't just be like, all right, today we're not pitching to that guy. Because who's up before him? Who's up after him? And then we've had guys like Gavin Sheets. I was reading the other day, he was like, he's the happiest he's ever been to be hitting 7th because of the guys that are getting back in this order. But yeah, like having someone like Gavin Sheets with a OPS, I think over 850. Yeah, 858. To have a guy like that be batting 7th when you have your full lineup, that's pretty scary. So it's good to have Crony back. Merrill with the illness, it's not an injury, so that's good. But yeah, what a whooping that was. I remember they smacked the Cubs at Wrigley, right? I remember Luke Voit homering, I think, off a position player a couple years back or a few years back, whenever that was. But yeah, this one was I couldn't believe for a split second. I was like, wait, that's the actual score, 21-0. But yeah, that was the actual score. From OptaStats, the Padres are the first MLB team to score 20 plus runs and have their starter throw a 9 inning shutout since the Cincinnati Red Stockings did so against the Baltimore Orioles on August 10th, 1889. And how many Padres fans, if I would have presented that to you, you'd have said, okay, cool, yeah, 9 inning shutout, 20 plus runs. All right, happened in Colorado. Who would you have said at the beginning of the year would have been the starting pitcher? Michael King, Dylan Cease. I don't know how many people, to be quite honest, would have said Nick Pivetta because maybe we weren't as familiar with him and he hadn't gone on this run with the Padres. Definitely wouldn't have been Stephen Kole because, well, he wasn't on the roster. I don't think anyone would have picked Randy Vasquez. But that's baseball. That is baseball. Yeah. And the Rockies, a lot of mental errors, it seemed like. Obviously physical errors too, but yeah, that's a rough watch if you're a Rockies fan. I did want to give a Yu Darvish update while I'm looking at my Twitter, going back and seeing just to refresh my memory. Darvish, he is expected to make a rehab start in the middle of next week. The latest update from AC was that they don't know where yet, but I think a couple of teams are going to be at home, a couple of the Padres affiliates, and so it would be one of those, I assume. They wouldn't go have him pitch on the road. Although I think Musgrove did that in Sacramento a couple years back. That, I think, is the only injury update, unless I'm missing something. Because Crony's back. Hoeing's on the 60-day. Reynolds is here. Yeah, I think that's it. Game 1 of the series, that 13-9 win. I will get to the chat, obviously. Sorry if I didn't mention that at the beginning of the show, but yes, I will get there. If you want to join the show, you can click that link pinned up at the top of the chat. Again, it was 13-2 at one point in Game 1 of this series. And, of course, the game was over. Guys were, leaving the game, I want to say in the 7th inning, 6th or 7th inning. I think 7th. Tatis, Manny, Bogart. So it was good to see those guys get off their feet. I know they were just coming off an off day, but how much of an off day is it when you probably get in? I don't know exactly what time they got in, but they're probably getting into Colorado on, what would that have been? Thursday morning at like 4 a.m. because they were coming from New York, a night game in New York. So maybe some people can't sleep on the plane. So are you sleeping all day in your hotel room? I don't know, but it was good to have them get some time off there. And then, yeah, really what I took away from Game 1 was just the bummer that it was that Suarez had to pitch, but he only threw 3 pitches. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Didn't have to pitch these last 2 games of this series, so that was good. And Randy Vasquez, 6 innings, 2 runs. Great job from him, only walking 1 guy. Talk about, with Kole, someone who wasn't walking a ton of guys as he was fighting to get up to the Padres. Vasquez, the walks sometimes that's what has gotten him into trouble. And now to see him put together a start like this, I know it's the Rockies, but the strike zone, still got to pound the strike zone. And it seemed like he sure did that. I know he gave up a couple of homers, but from Randy Vasquez, you're going to take 6 innings, 2 runs every single time. You will take 5 innings, 2 runs some of the times, And then Matsui, and like freaking out about the bullpen, Reynolds, Peralta, not Matsui, he didn't allow a run, but Reynolds 4 runs, Peralta 2 runs. Peralta, he was off to a good start this season. Like I was singing his praises. Now his ERA is up to 7.04. I'm not like freaking out about, the Padres, they got, the Rockies got close there. Because the guys that, gave up a bunch of those runs, are they going to be here at the end of the year? I don't know. Wandy, maybe. Reynolds, there's definitely potential, but those are two guys, let's just say they're not going to be pitching in high leverage situations. Wandy, I thought, had worked his way into being able to do that, getting the trust of the Padres to do that if one of the bigger guys couldn't pitch on a certain night, because he started off the season not allowing a run until April 16th. So that was one, two, three, four, five, eight, eight scoreless appearances to start off the year, allowed a run, and then he had three more scoreless appearances, allowed a run, scoreless against Pittsburgh, and then he gave up 6 runs against the Yankees. And so his last 3 outings, it's been 6 runs, 2 runs, 2 runs. And he's combined for 2 innings in those 3 outings. So that's not a huge sample size, but we know that Wandy struggled last year, was disappointing last year. And I was hoping that that wasn't going to be the case this year. And I'm not saying that this year is lost, obviously. But things are not trending. Things are not continuing to trend in the right direction. They're trending in the wrong direction for sure. So he has worked his way, at least recently, back into the bottom of this bullpen and pitching in the situations that, we were in like today, where the Padres were down. It would take a lot. No Jackson Merrill. And so, yep, Wandy, you get the call. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to add from game 1 of this series. Crony getting back, obviously, and that lineup being intact, dropping 13 runs with Crony coming back, like, that was good. But I know that with this talent in this offense, the Padres, especially the pitching, the Padres are going to win a lot of games. They're a good baseball team, and the Rockies are not. So it was good to see them take care of business runs-wise in games 1 and games 2. And then today, yeah, a little bit of a clunker, but it was kind of one of those perfect combinations, I think, for the Rockies today to get that win. So took 2 out of 3. I'm fine with it. I'm not super pissed off about it. A little disappointed, but not super pissed off about it. And you move on to the Angels coming up. How are the Angels? Because Trout's hurt. Rendon is even with the team anymore. Tomorrow, 6:40, Kikuchi and Michael King. Tuesday, 6:40, Soriano and Cease. Wednesday, not a day game, 6:40. Kyle Hendricks is an Angel. Wow, forgot about that. And then Randy Vasquez for the Padres. I think Wednesday's the reversible bucket hat giveaway. So should be a really good crowd for that. I mean, it'll be a good crowd for all 3 games. That's just what Padres fans do now. But yeah, it should be an interesting series. Off day Thursday, so that's part of why they're going to have a night game on Wednesday. And then Friday against the Mariners. That game's on Apple TV. Saturday, 5:40, back on Padres TV. Same thing, Sunday at 1:10. Off day on the 19th, and then they go on the road to Toronto. So there's a little look at the schedule coming up. Before getting to the chat, just want to shout out the great partners of this show, Gaglione Bros, Famous Cheesesteaks and Garlic Fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. You can check them out there. They've got their full menu there. More of a condensed menu at Petco Park at Snapdragon Stadium, where they've got the garlic fries, the cheesesteak fries, cheesesteaks, a lot of good stuff there. So check them out. Usually there's long lines at Gaglione Bros at Petco, so maybe you get there a little bit early and so that you won't be waiting. But it's like In-N-Out, right? If there's a long line, it means that it's good because people want it, and people want it a bunch. So check them out if you have not already. But I'm sure since I'm speaking to Padres fans go to Petco, and you probably already know. But they've got great food over there. Freestyle Cut and Stitch. If you have not heard of them, well, what are you doing? Local San Diego brand, Padres players like Joe Musgrove, Jackson Merrill, Tyler Wade, a lot of guys. Manny has worn it. Profar was big on that. Hassan Kim was big on wearing the basketball jerseys. The Padres are even making a basketball jersey giveaway for Manny Machado later this year. Where did that come from? These freestyle cut and stitch basketball jerseys. I'm just saying. I think they had a Musgrove one maybe last year. It came from him wearing the basketball jersey from Freestyle Cut and Stitch. So if you want to check those out, please do so. FreestyleCutandStitch.com. Use code Talking Friars, 10% off any future orders. Again, they've got a lot of great Padres players there, customization. If you want something that's not even Padres, but something that you're thinking about, maybe another San Diego team, you can make that request online and they'll do their best to fulfill that. It's not as expensive as the Padres team store and to go get a Padres jersey. You want to show off your personality a little bit and one of your favorite players, and you could get a really good price for. I think it's like more than half the price of what a Padres jersey would be at the team store. So make sure to check them out. And if you're more of a shirt person, they've got some great graphic tees, player tees over at Breaking Tee. Click the link in the description for that. There's Gavin Sheets, the Holy Sheets shirt. Fernando, Merrill, Manny. There's a lot of guys on there. So I recommend you check them out. They got some San Diego State stuff, I believe, as well, and other sports. So it's not just Padres, but or just San Diego sports, but obviously this is a San Diego sports show, so I'm going to plug that. And then SeatGeek, same code. That is the Freestyle Cut and Stitch code. Same thing for SeatGeek. Code Talking Friars, $20 off your first order there over on SeatGeek when you sign up with your email. All right. Thank you for the super chats. Let's go to those first. JD's third here. How did we lose to the Rockies today? Marquez and ace. Marquez did pitch well, yeah. And Pivetta was not the same Pivetta. Maybe didn't get the movement on his pitches as usual. Not the same Pivetta as definitely a Pecco. Just not the same Pivetta that we're used to, that we've been used to for the most part this season. So that's my quick way of describing it, really. Some weird plays in the field. Albert, Friar Faithful, thank you for that super chat. Very generous of you. Much appreciated. Let's get to the chat here. Yeah, Jay says, I'm sorry, but what a pathetic effort today. I did see some of that on social media, like people thinking that they're not trying. I think at one point it was 17 retired in a row. So obviously when that happens and it's the Rockies, people are going to bring that up. But this team is a group that has the mentality of like today. I mean, they were saying it last night. I think Crony had a quote. Maybe it was Merrill too. That today's done. It's on to tomorrow. And that was after they scored over 20 runs and didn't give up any. It's on to tomorrow. So, and they're going to have the same mentality after today's loss. You just move on. And at the end of the day, they went 6-3 on the road trip. Sometimes we, dissect these individual games and, obviously I'm not saying you shouldn't be disappointed with today. Sure. But I'm just saying overall, look at the road trip, zoom out on homestands, for example, zoom out on road trips. Did they go 5-4 or 4-5 on this road trip? No, they went 6-3. You're going to take that. And they're getting guys back. So I'm more looking at it that way. Yeah, I mean, I was saying this too yesterday about, well, they were when they were up 6-7-0 early yesterday. I was like, yeah, all right, watch Pivetta just suck it up tomorrow, and the Padres don't score anything because that's what baseball is. Because it happens. Bud Black was just fired. Is that wow? Yep, that's right. All right, well, here's my reaction to that. Bud Black relieved of manager duties. Rockies announced they have relieved manager Bud Black. Bench coach Mike Redmond Mike Redmond got fired as well. Okay, sorry, I was kind of reading that wrong. Warren Schaefer named interim manager. I knew that he was the third base coach today, and I was literally thinking in my mind, if Bud Black gets fired, they're probably going to want to see this guy Warren Schaefer manage, and I think that's why they're doing it. Like with Bud Black, are they going to get anywhere in the short term? No. Again, I don't think it's Bud Black's fault, but if you're the Rockies, like you got to look toward the future, and so give this guy a shot, see what he can. I mean, we see this a bunch in sports. The season's not going anywhere. You have a veteran guy, let him go, and have this. Just like there's an opportunity for players on the field, it's an opportunity now for one of your coaches that you think could be a manager. Give him the opportunity, and then maybe you have your manager right there instead of keeping Bud Black the entire season, and then you hire Schaefer. Let's say you elevate him full time to start a season that isn't lost already, and then it doesn't work out. At least it's this interim trial period, if that makes sense, with him as the manager. I'm not saying that this guy is going to now lead the Rockies to go on a big winning streak or something, but there's things behind the scenes and stuff that the front office would be able to see in conversations that they'll be able to have and see how this guy manages in game and stuff that they can evaluate. Or with Bud Black, they already knew who Bud Black was. So it's not that surprising. I was talking already earlier in the show that at some point, yeah, they're probably going to fire Bud Black. But again, let's be clear, this is not Bud Black's fault. Okay? It's just not. And I'm not saying this just because Bud Black was a former Padres manager and I personally like Bud Black. I said the same thing about Derek Shelton with the Pittsburgh Pirates and him getting fired. I mean, Paul Skeens was telling the media in his first time addressing the media after Shelton got fired, saying that, yeah, like someone had to be held accountable. He wasn't surprised. But, like, you can't fire all the players, so you're going to do something. And sure, Bud Black's still going to get his money. Derek Shelton's still going to get his money. But it just sucks that you're going to take the job if you're Bud Black. You're going to take the job if you're Derek Shelton because it's, one of very few jobs in the world to manage a Major League Baseball team. So, like, you're going to take that. It's probably something that these guys dreamed of. But it just sucks to be in that situation where you have that team and you're not managing the Padres or a team that is actually trying to win baseball games financially, if that makes sense. And it's easy to vouch for Bud Black. It's easy to, have this argument for Bud Black because he was the manager literally when the Rockies have had the most success that they've had since going to the World Series in 2007. 2017, 2018, who was the manager when the Rockies made it to the postseason? It was Bud Black. The team that actually had more talented players on the roster, like Nolan Arenado, like Charlie Blackmon, like Trevor Story. Yeah, those guys, Bud Black was managing. You have more talent, guess what? The manager looks better. You don't have talent, and you give Nolan Arenado away, and you don't bring back Trevor Story, this is what happens. The manager doesn't look as good. So I think Bud Black is a talented manager. It's unfortunate that this was the situation that he was in. I'm not surprised that Bud Black ends up being let go. Maybe this was a Dick Monfort thing, or this was the GM, I think Bill Schmidt with the Rockies, who was just, lying to the media the other day when he had Bud Black's back, because of course he's going to say that to the media. And if you're the GM, or if it's a Dick Monfort thing, the ownership saying that this has to happen, you're doing it because you're going to be here for the future, and you're not going anywhere this year, so might as well try to have Warren Schaefer maybe be that next guy and see what happens. But yeah, sucks for Bud Black, sucks for Derek Shelton, sucks for guys that are talented. Um, there's a reason why they get hired in the first place, but ownership, their side, front office, you could say as well, but like front office, they're limited in what they can do because what does ownership give them? You know, so really ownership for me, when ownership doesn't hold up their end, you're trying your best to get the most out of the talent that you have, that you're given. That's all you can do. And Bud Black just wasn't given enough resources from ownership to be better at his job. But you go back to, I know this isn't talking Rockies, but Bud Black just did get fired. And you look at that 2018, 2017 Rockies team and some of the names, DJ LeMahieu, in his prime, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackmon. Like, those are way better names than what's in this roster right now. You know, Kyle Freeland pitching over 200 innings, right, in his prime. Tyler Anderson in his prime. Ramon Marquez coming onto the scene, almost pitching 200 innings. Like, in the bullpen, having someone like Wade Davis, having Adam Ottavino, you know how filthy he was. We know that, obviously. Over 100 strikeouts in 2018. Like, better players, and shocker, Bud Black can help manage that team to the postseason. But when he has, you know, the roster that he has, I don't want to totally single out, you know, certain players on this Rockies roster, but there's guys that we just haven't heard of. And Bud Black's supposed to have this team be a winning team. I just, come on. Kyle Farmer in there almost every day. I guess I am now singling out players. Sorry. But yeah, it's sad. It is sad for sure. Like today's lineup, for example, and this was a game that the Rockies obviously won. To have Ryan McMahon as your 3-hitter, where would he hit in the Padres lineup? A contending lineup. Where would Brenton Doyle, the leadoff hitter, where would he hit in a contending lineup? He's got a 625 OPS. They got Jacob Stallings as their starting catcher, hitting 164. Just not given enough. That's all. But maybe Bud Black, he would say he's not happy, and it sucks because he wants to win and you want to be in Major League Baseball, but he did not look good. That has to be just long, long days having to watch the Colorado Rockies play baseball. I know you're getting paid good for that, but man, to watch your team like that, those are long days, long nights. So getting fired after a win is interesting. We're trying to tank, bud. Don't you get that? You're gone. They're 7-33. Again, reflection. I go back to the Pirate situation. The Rockies, we'll see. I don't know if they've released a statement, but it's like, don't mention the word urgency. It would be awesome if one of these days these owners would be like, yeah, we're parting ways with Bud Black, but we're not getting anything out of this season. It's no disrespect to Bud Black. We just want to try someone younger, and I need to take accountability for me not putting enough into this franchise. I didn't set Bud Black up good enough, but from now on, we're starting this new direction, and I will be invested. Dick Monfort, by the way, he did release a statement. Our play so far this season, especially coming off the last 2 seasons, has been unacceptable. Our fans deserve better, and we are capable of better. While we all share responsibility in how this season has played out, these changes are necessary. We will use the remainder of 2025 to improve where we can on the field and to evaluate all areas of our operation so we can properly turn the page into the next chapter of Rockies baseball. I want to thank Bud Black and Mike Redmond for their contributions to the organization across their 8 years here. I appreciate their hard work and dedication and wish them nothing but the best moving forward. So, really, the first paragraph in this statement, sure, you can say we all share responsibility in how this season has played out. Uh, by the way, he's not just saying that, he says, while we all share responsibility. So, he's then saying these changes are necessary. Um, Evaluating all areas of our operation. Hopefully, that includes you, Dick. Hopefully, that includes you. Look in the mirror. Because this is the guy that criticized the Padres for spending money, trying to win baseball games. Like, what a thought. So, for Rockies fans, I hope that that can change, but I wouldn't get my hopes up there. All right. Continuing with the chat here. Yeah, interesting they fired Bud Black after a win. Let's see. Yeah, Wandy hasn't looked sharp lately. Devin says Bud Black got ripped off. Rockies are an embarrassment to the sports market of Colorado. I think they're going to be worse than the 2024 White Sox. Sure could be. Let's see. Johnny says, wonder if Bud Black will retire now that he was let go today. I don't know. Does he want to end his career like that? He could go be a front office assistant, special assistant to someone. He could totally do that. Because maybe he's like, yeah, I want to break from being the manager, but I still want to be in baseball. And he obviously has a ton of connections. He could retire for sure. I mean, the guy's got money. The amount of years that he's managed in the big leagues, he has money. The silence is me just scrolling through the chat, by the way, for the podcast audience. So the Padres now are 25-14, and considering some of the injuries we've had, I'm going to take that. They're taking care of business against the bad teams, which is what good teams do. Lots of Dodger talk in the chat. Dodger fans must be in here. Interesting. When the Padres played the Rockies, has nothing to do with the Dodgers, but you guys are still in here on a Sunday afternoon. Do the Dodgers not play right now? Oh, they are playing right now. You can't go watch the Dodger game? By the way, did you guys see? I guess now that we're on that team, Chase Field. Holy cow, that is for some Dodger fans that thought Dodger fans took over Petco Park. Go look at Chase Field the other night. That is insane. All right, I think that's going to do it. Talking Friars here. Padres take 2 out of 3 against the Rockies. Fine with it. Good road trip. 6-3. Gonna take it. Guys are getting back. Darvish rehab start coming up sometime middle next week or this week since it's today's Sunday. Angels coming up back home. Mariners, the Vetter Cup. Wonder how much that's going to mean to the guys. Those questions are going to be interesting. The media going up to Manning or something. How much does it mean to you to win the Vetter Cup? They'll probably be like, the what? Anyway, see you guys. Thank you so much for the time. Much appreciated. Have a great rest of your weekend.